Welcome, everyone. I'm Debra Giusti, and I'm extremely passionate about this subject. And you're very fortunate to be here now because we have two experts on the topic of ascension, and we're going to be talking about bringing this to light, not only the overall ascension of the planet, but the personal ascension that we're going through. We're here because we know there's a major shift going on. And probably a lot of you have been in tune with that for a long time. And it's escalating. And we're here now because the truth needs to come out. And it's crazy. You open up your phone, you look at what's going on in the world, there's a lot coming down. And you may not think it's positive. But really, what it is why we're here. The stuff that's been hidden underneath is coming up to the surface and being revealed. So there's a major healing going on in the globe. Everything's coming to the surface so it can be addressed, it can be dealt with, and the higher frequencies, the better ways can come forward. Because before it was just hidden under the surface. And so as a lot of spiritual teachers say, as above, so below. So we see this happening on the planet really obviously. And this is also what's happening to our inner spiritual world. We have a great opportunity at this time in the planet to heal, to ascend, to rise up to another level of higher consciousness. And I think that's why we all came to the planet right now. I'm thinking that's why I'm here and why I'm passionate to be here. And if you're here right now, you're also part of the light workers that are leading the pack for this consciousness happening. And so that's what we're talking about when we talk about ascension. It's that rapid spiritual evolutionary process that's happening right now. And I know for me, I've been in a spiritual evolutionary process my whole life, but it seems to be escalating. And for me, right after 2012, even though the world didn't go away, but there was a shift and there was a greater escalation for me in 2012. And then I started really delving deep with ascension teachers like Meg Benedicte and other people and really understanding this is a great opportunity that we have now to really evolve our being, our light body into quantum consciousness. And that's what's before us now. And I'm talking about a personal experience that I've had. So for me, these are some of the things that have been happening that make me understand this is a real process. For me, after 2012, I got that meditation is not an option anymore. Being with Source, meditating, connecting with God is like brushing your teeth if you're on the evolutionary path. It's something you got to do every day and really connect in and connect with Source. The process of synchronicity, which is part of evolving into the higher fifth dimensional realms where you put out thoughts and manifestations and then things show up as synchronistic happenings. But that's all part of what's evolving in the consciousness here. Downloads. Are you all familiar with downloads where you get information, you get transmissions, you get connections from the higher realms, and these start happening spontaneously. Personal relationships with the higher forces, with the ascended masters, with the archangels, with the Davic kingdom, all that's coming online with lots of people now. Understanding your higher self as another part of your being that is yourself and starting to live from your higher self. Connecting with your divine mission, realizing that you came here for a purpose and how good it feels when you connect in with that purpose and move forward with it. And another big thing is connecting with your soul tribe. This is what we're doing here at this festival here, is having the soul tribe that understands this consciousness, that's committed to this consciousness here, so we can connect and we can be together. We can talk the same language. So this is part of the ascension process, and it goes really deep. Also, another thing is that your life shifts. Things that were lower vibration, people that kind of aren't on that similar path tend to go away. And then new things rise up. there's a lot of pieces to this. And I'm really happy to have two experts, Meg Benedicte and Billy Carson, and I get to ask them the deep questions of all of that, of what's going on. So that's what we're going to do here today. So I want to share who these incredible people are. Meg Benedicte is a top Ascension teacher. She has an online program. She's a quantum healer. She's an alchemist. She's creator of the quantum access process, which is a powerful healing technique. And she was actually activated to the Ascension process with a Kundalini awakening during the Northridge earthquake. And she connects with Metatron, who's one of the archangels, who's one of the primary ascension guides of this planet. So that's where she gets a lot of her high-level information. And Billy Carson, you probably know, he does forbidden knowledge. He's amazing, wrote the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. He's on Gaia TV with Deep Space, coming out with movies, wealth of information. So I want to welcome you both here. And we're going to go right into it. I'd love you to define your concept of the ascension process. It's like the six blind men and the elephant. It's defining God, really. But what is your perspective and what is your personal experience of what you see as this rapid spiritual evolutionary process that's happening now? And we're going to pass the mic.
Yeah, I was going to say we need another mic.
Oh, you want me to start? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. So I started my ascension process in January '94 in the Northridge earthquake, had a spontaneous Kundalini activation, like lightning shooting through, and it allowed my soul to actually come in and be present, and everything shifted. And that's when I realized before this event, I was living in a sense, an imposed simulation, a reality that is, in a sense, running consciousness that's rather divisive and diminishing and limiting. And once this lifts, then everything starts to get freed up, and you actually begin to have knowledge and access of your higher wisdom, your higher self, whatever you call your God self. And so I began to go through this process. And one of the things that's happening now that wasn't happening back in the 90s and the 2000s is that since 2012, we have been receiving powerful plasma gamma photonic light from the galactic center. This is bombarding our planetary system. And that's what 2012 set off. It, in a sense, helped unlock this artificial matrix simulation program that's been running in our minds, and it's this plasma light that's coming into the planetary field is altering and thinning the magnetic fields. So if you think about it, the magnetic fields holds everything in. It even holds in debilitating programs and patterns and belief systems. So as this starts to thin and open, this is why so many people are having this awakening process. They're beginning to rise beyond that very dense magnetic limitation. I think of it as, in a sense, we are in a prison of our own mind, and that is opening and expanding and freeing. And it allows us then to begin to identify where these dense limiting patterns, programs, consciousness code is cycling in us, it's looping in us, it's running our reality. And once we begin to understand this, then we can go in a very active process of clearing that density out. And so this is what we're talking about, is shifting from a very low density, three-dimensional world reality to a much higher, fifth-dimensional and higher dimensional reality that's less dense and freer and less limiting and open. And so this process it's challenging, it's amazing, it has, it runs the whole gamut, but when you're clearing out the fear program, the doubt program, the limitations like the lack program, you start to clear out your ancestral lineage that's looping in you and controlling you. You start to get free of your past. You begin to start to live in 0 point in the now, and you're present. You're present and you're open, and your channels open up to your higher self, to your guidance. It's a completely different way of living in the world. It's very it's very much at the quantum level, because you're tapping into the holographic quantum field of all possibilities, all potential. This is I feel very empowering, because no longer now am I stuck in some like very hard locked destiny. I every moment am creating my destiny. I'm creating my reality. And so that's what I see is happening for all of us. And how do we work with that is up to us. We're all in free will. How do we go? Do we dive into this whole process and work our trauma out and clear out the limitations and really create this sacred vessel as a home for the soul to come in and be embodied? Or do we ignore it all and still stay in the matrix simulation? So this is the kind of the choice everyone's being given right now on the planet. I here am a champion of going into the process, because the payoff is extremely magnificent. So we'll get into more details of it now, but that's just a real snapshot of how this happened for me and got me into this process and why I'm here sharing it. Thank you.
Said a lot of very valid points. As a matter of fact, I can really link a lot of real science to what she was just talking about. That's a whole nother show. But what I'm trying to say is a lot of valid points. Sometimes when you hear people speaking like these two, if you're an outsider, you'll say, oh, this sounds like mysticism or gypsy talk. But when you get deep into the meaning behind what they're talking about, and then look for the real science, you'll find that a lot of what they're talking about can be validated by real quantum physics and quantum mechanics. And I think that's very important to understand. A lot of the unseen that we've been dealing with in our lives, unseen meaning, things that we call miracles and, things that happen that bless us and so forth. A lot of these things can really be backed by quantum mechanics and quantum physics. The unseen is really there. It's really another realm operating within a realm, and it has laws. And if you know how to tap into that information, this is where we're coming today, to the Ascension. What is Ascension? Well, we're talking about being able to be readily available and already in sync with the universal consciousness at all times, in all places, and ready to quantum entangle with the needs that you have to have taken care of for yourself, for your family, and also for others. Because being of service is one of the biggest parts. So when we're talking about Ascension, we're talking about not only are your needs automatically met for yourself, but how are you looking to service others as well? And I think that we're going to eventually move into a society as everybody begins to have consciousness ascension, where people aren't, the economic system is going to collapse and people aren't compensated on a capitalistic society. You will be basically compensated by, or your ranking will be what it is, because money will be gone at that point. But your ranking will be how good you are at what you do and how much do you help others. That's the kind of system that we're looking forward to putting in place, and as we usher mankind back into the golden age. We're all the pioneers here. We're the pioneers. We're planting seeds for trees that'll grow that we'll never sit in the shade of. And, but the work is worthwhile. And we're in the very, very beginning stages of this amazing work on this planet. If you look at where we came from just technologically in the last 100 years, we literally went from a horse, buggy, and carriage to now we can send remote control cars to other planets. Okay? I mean, think about it. And send the images and sounds and everything and back and analyze it. That's amazing. Now, we've basically only been alive on this planet for the blink of an eye, literally. In geological timescales, human beings are fairly new. We're the new kids on the block. Homo sapien sapien, new kids on the block. So we've grown, believe it or not, a long ways in a very short period of time. We still have a long way to go, don't get me wrong. But we are moving. We're getting to the point now where we want to start to crawl. And once we start crawling, we'll begin to walk, and then we'll begin to run. But these are the beginning stages of awakening consciousness and actually having that ascension process and understanding truly what ascension means. You hear a lot of people saying, oh, we're going to go into 5D, we're going into 4D and everything else. And some people may mistake it for right now, like we're just going to shift into a light body tomorrow. It's probably not going to happen. But what happens in your mind, in consciousness is multidimensional. It inhabits, there's 11 dimensions that make up this universe alone. Quantum mechanics has already proven that, otherwise this universe would collapse. The reason why gravity is one of the weakest forces in the third dimension is because it's already been proven now that gravity transcends all those dimensions. And by the time it gets to the third dimension, it's a lot weaker than the other four forces. So It's the same thing with consciousness. Consciousness transcends multiple dimensions. Not only multiple dimensions, but it's capable of transcending multiple universes as well. The multiverse. The odds that we're living in base reality are probably 10,000 trillion to 1. There's probably a sea of multiverses out there, and you're in every single one of them in different frequencies with every single possibility happening at the same time. And time really truly is an illusion. When you realize the ascension of consciousness, time is an illusion. We're talking about the past, present, and the future happening all at the same time. Has anybody here saw the movie Interstellar? Okay. Fantastic movie, right? What happens towards the end of the movie, the star of the movie, he ends up getting ejected from a spaceship while he's in space, and he falls into something called a tesseract, which is a 4-dimensional cube. And in that 4-dimensional cube, that's really Metatron's cube, which she was talking about just a little while ago. And in Metatron's cube, you're in a higher dimension than the third. So he was able to see his daughter at various different times in her life within the house that they used to live in. And how is that possible? Well, in quantum mechanics and quantum physics, it's very possible when you understand that when your mind is at a higher level of consciousness, you can see the past, present, and future all at once. Why? Because imagine that we're all in this tent, but imagine this tent has separate rooms inside of it. And imagine yourself in different rooms at the same time doing various different things simultaneously. That's what it's like to be a being that's understanding and seeing things from a higher dimension. So in consciousness ascension, we're literally talking about taking yourself to other dimensions and being able to realize, analyze, and feel what's going on around you, not only in this space-time, but also in other space-times. This is how remote viewing works. I was trained by Major Ed Dames in remote viewing. And in remote viewing, mind outside of space, outside of time, we can send our minds into the future. We can send our minds into the past. We can send our minds into the current to collect information and collect data or intel. Okay, if you don't know about Project Stargate, look it up. It's a real project. There's been a couple of movies made about the man. But in that process of training with Major Ed Dames, I learned how powerful the mind truly is and how capable we truly are. And this is why a lot of beings have a heavy interest in us on this planet, because of our capabilities, the capabilities that we house inside of our bodies is just so tremendous. And a lot of them are waiting for our true ascension to come, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
Thank you. Beautiful. So great. So that's kind of a basis of the ascension process. And we're going to go deeper now, and we're going to widen the lens. And I'd like to understand more of the bigger picture of ascension, the global picture of ascension. I've heard that there's Ascension astrology coming up in 2020, and this is what we're in preparation for right now. And just why we're here today, that disclosure is really happening. So the galactics, how the consciousness of becoming aware and connecting with the higher galactics are part of our ascension process. Maybe that we're finally graduating into another level of human reality and family to be able to participate in the galactic family. Also connecting with the guides on the other dimensional levels, the ascended masters who are here now to help with this ascension process. I hear that they're here to guide us, but it's really us that take us up, but they're right there backing us up and supporting us. So I'd like to understand the bigger picture of the ascension process as it relates to global and multidimensional and galactic realities.
Thank you. Okay, so from my experience going through this process, it is in a sense like a decomposition of all that no longer serves us, and this goes all the way down to the genetic code. And based on the last 26,000 years, we've been living in a reptilian human hybrid genetic code, and this is losing its hold. This is decaying. This is it's fraying. It's breaking down. We're shedding this, and you may even feel it physically as you're decomposing and shedding this code. What's going to replace it then is your own galactic soul code, and so this is dormant DNA that's waiting to be activated and turned on and fully functional. And so there's in a sense this kind of death and rebirth process that's involved in ascension, and it doesn't always feel so great, but you're understanding from the bigger picture that you're literally transforming and transfiguring your vessel so that the soul can come in and be embodied. And when we're able to turn on more of our crystalline 12th dimensional soul code, then this opens up our capacity to access these 11 dimensions of our physical earth reality, and then even go beyond into more of the monad or I am presence of the divine. So this is where they call it the veils. The veils start to dissolve, the veils start to erase, the veils start to release, especially out of the third eye and pineal antenna to your higher self. And so you start to link up. Code activates, decomposing, releasing, you're detoxing, boom, boom, boom. You start activating this crystalline soul code, and your capacity grows. You have more abilities to actually pick up and see the unseen world. This is where you begin to see your guides. You begin to see whoever is, I call it your support team, whoever is in your support team. So that could be angelic beings, it could be spirit guides from past lives, it could be an ascended masters. This is where Archangel Metatron stepped forward. I had a visitation from him about 20 years ago, and it was like, okay, we're going to work together. We got stuff to do here. And I didn't even understand any of it because my human mind, my human consciousness doesn't understand this. So just realize that it's letting more of your higher mind come in. So as Debra mentioned, the downloads, let the transmissions come in from your higher mind, your higher self. This is knowledge coming. You're drawing it from all of your past lives, future lives, parallel lives, what do you want to call it, but you're pulling in all of the aspects of your totality, and you're able to access ancient knowledge, memory, past life trauma to clear, karma, you can clear karma. You begin to transcend the time barriers of this three-dimensional earth plane and have access to all that is. So that's the goal. So not only is our mind opening and accessing higher knowledge, spirit guides, archangels, however that is, but then your body starts to access these higher dimensions as well. And so you begin to actually start to use both left, right brain simultaneously. You're in the physical particle field, left brain. You're in the vast multidimensional psychic world, right brain. You begin to work with them both. So you're here present, and you're in the universe present. So it's a little disorienting at first. You have to kind of get used to it. You need to ground, and as Debra said, you need to meditate, because you're literally pulling your focus away from the external world, which is the matrix, and you're pulling in. Keep focusing in. That's why meditation's so good, because you're needing to redirect your focus into what's happening inside you, clearing your vessel and bringing the soul in. This is the whole embodiment process of converting into a crystalline light being. So anytime you find you're really obsessing out there in the material world, stop and focus back in. Just do a quick little shift, You're retraining yourself to be in presence, and that's when everything starts to shift. Because I remember when I was younger in this process, I kept struggling. I couldn't make money, I couldn't manifest. I kept asking the guides, what am I doing wrong? I can't manifest. And they're like, you magnetize in what you carry inside you, and you're empty inside. You need to start getting in there, being present, being fully lit up, and then everything started to magnetize in. I was pulling in what was matching my soul presence, supporting my soul destiny and my purpose. So there's processes that really help that you can introduce into your daily routine. Doesn't have to be a lot of time, but it is important. Get grounded, be inner focused, keep pulling in your light, and build that magnetism. Okay, thank you.
One of the things I hear a lot, talking about these topics is 2012. It comes up a lot. And I always said, if you go back on my Instagram account or my Facebook account or my blog, it was actually back then it was a forum. I think the forum is still live. I never deleted it. I was telling everybody that 2012 is not the end of the world. It's the beginning of a level of consciousness, and Ascension starts literally around that time. And, obviously the media took it and made money with all the destruction stuff. But the reason why it was the beginning of the ascension of consciousness, there was a real reason for that. At that time, believe it or not, our solar system was basically entering into the galactic equator. So you have a galaxy that's spinning. It's a giant accretion disk, and the distance from the top of the galaxy to the bottom of the galaxy is literally trillions of miles. Okay, it's very thick. Even though it looks thin, and when you look at it on a screen, it's a very thick disk. Well, our solar system kind of undulates up and down this galactic plane, so to speak, as it orbits the galactic center, which is a giant supermassive black hole. Well, at the center of the supermassive black hole, you have what they call supercharged particles, which are streaming out at a very, very high rate. And those super high charged particles, they miss you when you're down below the galactic equator. Only a few get through, or when you're above it. But when 2012 hit, this particular time, we were actually directly at the galactic equator, which happens every so many, I don't know, 40 or 50,000 years, some ridiculously high number. And so those charged particles are now doing what? Directly coming in. Some are getting past the magnetosphere because it is weaker, as she said. I did many posts about this, the fact that our magnetic field has become weaker and it's become twisted, and it's possibly going to have a magnetic flip. Our magnetic field on this planet flips every so many thousands of years. I think it's like every 27,000 years the magnetic field flips. Right now it's in a weakening state. As a matter of fact, magnetic north has now moved from true north to over Russia. And if you do the research, you'll find that the airports have had to change the information on their runways to allow for planes to land correctly, because if they leave the degrees that were there before, they won't hit the runway, okay? And you won't make it either. So this is scientific proof and documented proof that magnetic north has moved and shifted. So this is something that's real. It's not something that we're just, oh, this sounds great to say to people. I'm just trying to add. I always like to add the credibility factor to what's being said, because it can always get taken and be so ambiguous out there, you know? So these charged particles now, it's already been scientifically proven again that these particles have a direct effect on DNA. What happens if you expose yourself to nuclear radiation? You become sick and you die. Why is that? Why do you become sick and die when exposed to radiation? Because those radiating particles hit the DNA strands and then take pieces of the DNA with it. They alter your DNA, and then they cause malformed cells, and those malformed cells then can't replicate, and when they can't replicate, they then turn into malformed tumors, and then you die. That's what radiation is. It's particles, charged particles, directly affecting your DNA. When these charged particles are streaming in at an extremely high rate, nuons, muons, tetrions are all coming in and affecting us and changing us and altering us. And one of the things I'll be talking about later on today is the fact that our memories are stored in our DNA. This is what a lot of people don't realize. Yeah, you have memories in your brain as well, but genetic memories are passed down from generation to generation through the DNA. And one of the biggest things that we have in this society right now is you have a lot of people on this planet that have been oppressed, downtrodden, and put into a system, a matrix type system, that has basically reprogrammed their DNA from what it used to be to a mental enslavement system. And then that keeps getting passed from generation to generation, and it has to stop. And this is where we're moving forward. This is where the minds were talking about. We lived in 4 worlds, and we're entering into the 5th. The 5th is a new age, a new level of consciousness, a new level of ascension, because of these charged particles, because of people waking up, because of people beginning to realize who they are, and because of now people utilizing this knowledge and information to say, hey, how can we change? How can we fix this problem? Well, once you start to analyze and address these issues and problems and make yourself aware of them consciously, then you can make the proper changes and adjustments in your life that will then begin to reprogram your DNA. This is what this is all about. We literally have to reprogram ourselves. You always hear TV programming. Well, they call it programming for a reason. Okay? You're literally getting programmed when you turn the TV on, you know? I mean, there's no way around it. That's why they call it programming. They told you what it was straight up front. You know? So we have to now say, you know, one of the things I think that have made me so popular, I would say, is the fact that I've taken what the elites have used against human beings, and I've twisted it and used it for consciousness. Because I said, if it works this way, with this negative information, why can't I just use it to change people's minds in a different way? So a lot of the tactics and techniques and the way that I word a lot of the things I say, and the reason why I say certain things in certain ways, is because I'm using neuroscience, and I'm reprogramming people from all different races, all different genres, all at different times, and giving them the ability to self-inject and go, wait a minute, I need to take a look at this. I need to take a look at myself. I need to check this out. And so we're triggering the process of reprogramming now, which is going to help with the ascension process and help take us to the next level, because it's been, again, scientifically proven, peer-reviewed science. We can reprogram our DNA. There's nothing saying that nowhere does it say that we have to be stuck like this. We have to maintain this, stay in this mental prison and this enslavement and everything else. We have the capability, but we have to want to understand it. We have to analyze it. We have to realize it. And then we have to begin the process. And what's the process? Affirmations. Okay? Positive affirmations, thinking positively. Changing the way you think about the world, changing the way you think about people. If you're driving through traffic and somebody cuts you off, don't get mad and flip them off and start cursing and going carrying on in your car. Try this next time. Bless them. Bless them. Just say, hey, I bless this person. Maybe they're having a situation today. Maybe they're having a problem. Maybe they really need to get to where they're going. They didn't realize I was there. Whatever the case may be. Start using those type of positive things in your life, and then watch your own self start to change internally. And once we change ourselves internally, and then we have offspring, now they're going to become reprogrammed slightly. And then you got to teach them, and then they become, until all of a sudden we head back to the crystalline sentient beings that we're supposed to be, and not these meat sacks walking around trying to hate and kill each other. So that's the next level that we have to get to.
Great, thank you.
2020. Just one more comment too, because Debra had asked about what's happening this year, that we're in a sense getting prepared for the Ascension activations that are coming next year. They start in January, and this is the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. I'm not an astrologer, but all the astrologers are shining big red spotlights on this. This is also lining up with the United States natal chart. And Capricorn represents basically the government and the institutions and the establishment. And these two planets are going to whack-a-doodle that. So we are getting ready for that. We're so to expect change, however this change is going to develop, in a way, because we're conscious beings, we can actually influence the change, so it's positive, not destructive. And then think of it like as something is finishing, collapsing, creates a void, we step into the void and we create a much more harmonious world. So this is starting off this year. If you've noticed, the gamma, plasma, galactic waves are coming faster and more often, and this is in a sense the quickening this year to get us all prepared for what's coming next year, so we can actually act like stabilizers on the planet. We can stabilize this polarized energy that's really kind of creating a chaos field on our planet. And when we're then grounded, present, stable, neutral, we're not reacting, we're able to then affect the quantum field here of our planet, where it's moving in a very positive direction. So that's just a real quick, in a nutshell, what's coming in the next 6 months.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you for all of that. And you both are such incredible representations of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, where Meg is birthing the creative inspiration of what's happening, and Billy's landing it. No, this is real. I can prove it. So it's really beautiful working together like that. And what we're talking about is a real embodied process. So this is a little bit different maybe from what we've learned from Christian or other traditions, where you ascend and you leave the planet. We're talking about now activating to the higher dimensions. And so I'd like to take the lens down and really focus on, what does this mean to us? What's this alchemical process that we're going to go through? A little bit have been talked about with the DNA, but I want to go even deeper into that, because that's what I'm really excited to know about. And what does activating your light body really mean? What kinds of things are going to happen when you go through that process? I know for me, my intuition has grown. It's not an unusual, unknown sense. It's something I start to use all the time, and something we should use all the time. And I'm believing that's part of this ascension process that's happening now, is opening into intuition and accessing our higher selves and living from another part of our being, instead of the mind and just thinking this 3D body, but actually accessing other dimensional levels. And what is this fifth dimensional level? Can you describe what this means and what this is about? Also, I understand for me, and they've talked about it a bit, going in and healing the core wounds is really an important part of this, because you need to raise your frequency to the higher level. And if you're continuing to get triggered by negative core wounding and negative programming, you can't keep at this higher level where you can access the higher dimensions. So this, to me, is all a part of it. So I'd love you to take whatever part of that you feel called to talk about this really embodied ascension process.
Well, you know, if you look at a lot of the ancient scriptures from around the world, ancient text, there's usually a God figure that always, you know, he says he's going to return. In the Christianity, you have the Yeshua figure, who a lot of people, you know, in the conscious community and even other communities as well, tend to think that he never really existed. But I personally do believe that he existed just based off of my research. I know that a lot of the information in a lot of the religious texts is an archetype of celestial alignments, and that is 100% factual. That's true. But the person himself, if you read the Gospel of the Holy 12, he literally did exist. It talks about where he disappeared from the age of 12 to 32 when he went to Egypt, and I went to the house that he lived in Coptic Cairo. And they made it into a shrine now. Him and his mom lived there. He went to go study the Egyptian mysteries. Then he left there and he went to Tibet to learn the mystic arts, and he went to India to learn Reiki healing, and all the way back teaching reincarnation, because that's truly what the scriptures were supposed to be about, all about reincarnating, not the fact that you had to leave this place. One of the biggest lies or myths that have been pushed and taught in the religious arena is that you have to die in order to live. This is not true. I mean, again, this is my own opinion based off my many years of research, but after reading over 1,000 scriptures, tablets, cylinder scrolls, and Vedas, I have to tell you this: I believe that we're supposed to create heaven on earth. That is our mission. So that's our mission. You know, so when I hear, you know, as soon as I hear somebody talking that fear-mongering stuff and, you know, hell and everything else, and I start pointing out, well, hell was added to the scriptures at this time. The rapture was added to the scriptures at this time, 1835 by William James. I have all the stats. I mean, I know more about most of these religions than the people that are in them. You have to begin to realize that the people that are in the religions that are trying to teach and push the information have not researched the religion themselves. And this is one of the biggest problems that we have. And even in this movement, conscious movement, if you hear us talking about things up here, go back and research some of those things for yourself. Don't just take our word purely for it. I was talking to a gentleman, and he was trying to convert me into Christianity because he was saying that the way that I'm teaching is I'm going to be cast into a lake of hellfire, and I'm never going to ascend, and I'm not going to go to heaven. And I said, okay, let me just listen to what you have to say. I listened to what he had to say, and I said, okay, let me ask you a few questions now. What's the original text that the biblical scriptures is written in? He couldn't answer that question. I said, okay, give me a summary of the book of Deuteronomy. I never read the book of Deuteronomy. You never read the book of Deuteronomy? Okay. The more I asked him, I said, well, what year were the biblical texts written? What years? Give me the years between and when. He couldn't give me that answer. I said between 100 AD, 180 to 900 AD. The people who wrote the Bible, who were they? He didn't know that answer. The Phoenicians wrote the Bible. Those people were alive long after everybody else was already dead. Did anybody in the Bible write the Bible? Oh, yeah, they wrote the Bible. No, they didn't. Nobody talked about in the Bible wrote any of the scriptures that are in the Bible. These are all little things, and you're basing your eternity on this information. So I said to him, I asked him, this is what you're basing your, this is eternity. It's blind faith. Don't worry about it. It'll work out. No. I think it's a little bit more important than that, and I think this is what we're doing here today. We have to continue to educate people on spirituality and a knowledge of ascension versus something that's going to put you into mental enslavement. The system was set up to mentally enslave. A lot of the stories that are in there have all been taken from more ancient texts. You're going back into, the Old Testament is coming from the Sumerian tablets. You're talking about the Epic of Gilgamesh, the true story of Noah. You're talking about a lot of the Proverbs are coming from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which is really called the Egyptian Book of Going Forth by Day. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is in there. I could just keep going on. The New Testament, all the talkings of Jesus is coming from the Emerald Tablets. But that's written 36,000 years ago, but what he's saying is obviously written within the last 900 years. So what I'm saying to you is this. We have to break out of this mode of trying to think that we've got to kick our feet up, watch the world burn, and we're going to be raptured into some magical heaven. Because I guarantee a lot of people are going to be very upset when their energy is recycled back into another avatar to start all over again. So, I mean, you might come back as a rock if you keep doing it too many times. So, I mean, we got to understand, guys, we got to create, our mission is literally to create heaven on earth. How did this happen? Why is this? Well, this whole thing is a big experiment. But who's running the experiment? That's still a very big question mark. I'll tell you this, like she said earlier, as above, so below. So what we're talking about here is when you look at as above, so below, we're talking about collecting information at the highest level. If you look at, for example, the explosion of a star, it resembles, cell separation. If you look at a nebula, it resembles the iris of an eye. I can keep going on and on. Well, when you look at the big picture, the big scheme of things, you start to realize that the brain is encased in complete darkness. It doesn't know anything. It can't see, hear, smell, touch, or feel anything. But it has friends. So the brain says to its friends, go out there and collect some information for me so I can figure out what's going on. So its friends, sight, hearing, seeing, smelling, touch, everything, all the senses, they go out. They go, okay, we'll collect this information, but they themselves don't know what they're collecting. They collect data, real data, but they can't analyze it and break it down. They bring it back to the brain that's encased in darkness. Then the brain takes all that data and sorts it all out and projects a hologram of what's going on out here. And then you navigate through this holographic matrix from that information, from that data. So we're here to, and what's the purpose of that? We're here to collect information. For who? Because if you look at it on the big scale, consciousness is only one consciousness that exists. We're all part of that same consciousness. As a matter of fact, you've heard me say before, I'm up here talking to you guys, but I'm really up here talking to myself. And when you're talking to somebody, you're talking to yourself. Separation is an illusion. Distance is an illusion. Locality is an illusion. This is a conversation between me and me. And so what happens is, consciousness collects this data to experience life as that particular, you as a particular entity in this realm, and it sends that data back to source so it can analyze it. Consciousness' main function or purpose is to collect information and data from every single level of existence, at least as far as I know or to understand, in the third dimension. From a blade of grass to the atoms that make up this plastic table, to myself, to you, to everything around us. It's collecting information. And what the main purpose of sentient life is, in my opinion, is to develop enough consciousness and enough information, enough knowledge and wisdom to learn something. And when you learn something, like Thoth talks about, then you'll be able to consciously reincarnate at will. In the Animal Tablets, he talks about transferring his consciousness into other bodies and also consciously controlling when he reincarnates. And right now, he talks about the fact that human beings are in a state of rise and fall where they don't consciously incarnate at all. They blindly come back over and over again trying to learn the lesson, trying to collect the right data, trying to collect the right information. So I think it's very important that we begin to work on collecting the right information, doing what a lot of the ancients have talked about, which is, if you look into the real esoteric messages that are there, creating heaven on earth, healing people, helping people, being of service to others. Those are the things that are going to alter us and take us to the next level and eventually turn us into the light being. Other than that, we're going to keep falling into this cycle of rise and fall. But there's nowhere written anywhere, everything I've read, that says we have to stay in this cycle. The cycle is breakable. There's nowhere written that says we have to keep doing this cycle. We have to keep doing it. It's just going to happen inevitably. No. Why don't we rise this time and stay there? That's the ultimate goal, I believe, in this fifth world. That's the ultimate goal, to rise to a golden age and maintain it and stay there. So that's what I'm trying to help humanity get to.
So to add on that, when I first had my awakening and started working with Archangel Metatron, I kept getting pulled back into the Egyptian mystery schools, so doing a lot of kind of time jumping and dropping in and observing and seeing, well, what were they teaching? What was the goal of the mystery schools? And it all came down to this understanding of duality. This duality is think of it as the opposite. It's opposite. It's a push-pull between positive and negative forces, masculine and feminine, light and shadow. This is running in our field, in the planet, inside us, this push-pull. It's always going on. And what does it do? It separates us. It divides us. And it creates this three-dimensional holographic realm is so low in vibration. It's so dense. It's like we're all like rocks. And so spirit can't come in. Spirit can't merge with us. So we're disconnected then from our soul presence, from spirit, from source, from the infinite holographic universe. So this is why we want to master our duality. We want to minimize that push-pull within us, and this is what the mystery schools were teaching. They were teaching how to come into what's called 0 point, which is that still balance point between positive and negative. It's neutral, it's calm, it's in the now, it's out of time. And when we can learn how to master 0 point within our own fields, within our own emotional reactions, with our own thoughts, then we operate in that non-polarized state all the time, 24/7, and we're no longer separate from the rest of the universe. We're able to then connect and bring our, when you're out of duality, your frequency gets higher and higher, and so you're creating an environment that your own divine presence or soul presence can merge with you. This is, I'm going to keep repeating this, it's all about embodiment, you guys. And so when we are able to neutralize polarity, duality, come into 0 point neutrality, I think of it as moving from duality to singularity. We're coming into becoming just this singular pulse within our core center of our soul presence, and then that gets us into such a high frequency that we're able to access these higher dimensions. Those higher dimensions is kind of like bandwidths, right? You're gonna, right now we're stuck in this really low vibe, 8 hertz, three-dimensional field, and as we continue to clear our own trauma, clear our own density, keep raising our frequency, we begin to open up more and more of this heart chakra, this heart center, getting that healed, getting the core wounds healed in there, be able to be radiating love vibe all the time. That gets you into a real high frequency, and then that's our gateway into the 5th dimension and higher. It's not actually through the mind, you guys, it's through your heart center, because 5th dimension is a feeling field. It's not a mental field, it's a feeling field. So the more that you are feeling love, radiating love, that opens to you, and it's so different than what we've been living in the three-dimensional matrix. It's so benevolent. You start to magnetize heart-centered people to you. You start to live in this constant kind of flowing meditative state of joy. I mean, it's so different. But heart, your heart is the key. Your heart is the bridge. That's what's going to get you up into 5D and higher.
Thank you. Well, we're going to end this shortly with an experience, because Ascension is not something we just hear information and have. It's an actual experience. So Meg's going to lead us in an Ascension activation, which she does. But before they do that, I would like you to give us some top tips of what people can do to bring in the Ascension experience, and how they can contact you if they want more information to study with you and connect with you further.
One of the biggest things I think you can use to help with the ascension process is meditation. You know, as a matter of fact, I almost didn't make it over here because I was in the meditation. I was in such a deep meditation, I was seeing geometric figures. And, you know, when you get to that level, it's a very good level, because I can see geometric figures and I can see other entities in my meditation, depending on the meditation that I go into, without using psychedelics. Just the natural DMT already produced in the human brain. And, you know, so I'm a really big person on meditation. And the reason why is because a long time ago, it's like 1978, we were at a laundromat in Miami, Florida. And very hot, extremely hot. Okay, imagine being in 100-degree heat and 100-degree humidity and inside of a wash house doing dryer laundry, you know. Whew, painful. So I would go out back while my mom was inside, and I would just sit out there. And one day I said, you know what? I wonder if I can transport myself to a cold place. I mean, I'm a kid now. Think about this. And I said, I'm just, try it. So I closed my eyes, knowing nothing about, didn't even know the word meditation existed. I closed my eyes and I just automatically assumed that I was in Alaska because I knew that there were, igloos and stuff like that in Alaska and Eskimos. I'm looking at TV and I said, I'm in Alaska. So I really focused on being in Alaska. And I swear to you, I felt like I really transported my body to Alaska to the point where I came out of my little, meditation or whatever you want to call it, my skin felt cold. And that's when I knew there was something to what just happened. So what did I do? I started looking up and researching it and found out it was called meditation. So I've been doing meditation for a very, very long time. And there's all different types of meditations. It's not that you have to sit there in a lotus position and, you can do that. That's phenomenal. But there's many different types of meditation. You can be meditating in the shower. You can meditate when you're going for a walk. You can meditate when you're doing a specific type of a hobby that you love. You can meditate when you're playing a sport. Playing a sport at a higher level is a specific type of meditation. There's different types of meditations for different purposes and reasons, and you can look it up. I talk about this on some of my pages. But it's very important to understand, I think meditation is the key because you can literally use meditation to help address issues and problems in your life. You can use meditation to help manifest things into your life, and you can use meditation to download information directly from the universal consciousness as well. So there's many purposes and uses of meditation. It's very huge. I think also eating properly. I'm not saying everybody's got to be a vegan, but what I'm saying is try to focus more on a healthy diet. Try to eat more fruits and vegetables. Try to stay away from genetically modified food. Try to stay away from tortured food, because I think that some of that, just like in our DNA, we can pass the information down from generation to generation. If you're consuming the DNA of another entity that was tortured, that can pass then into your body as well, and you can carry that torture. So maybe try reducing it. If you're not going to get rid of it, try reducing it significantly. That will help you out. It'll help clean out yourself, help flush you out. I think help clear your mind as well. Just my personal opinion. You have to close? Oh my God. So try those things, guys. Those two things are powerful. ForbiddenKnowledge.com with the number 4. ForbiddenKnowledge.com. By the way, my book, Compendium of the Animal Tablets, is a bestseller right now, number 6 on the bestsellers list.
Also, to add to what Billy said about meditation, because it is so important to get control of this focused mind. Science has proven that the mirror neurons do not know the difference between what's happening or what you're envisioning. So the more that you work with the power of your mirror neurons, you want to start to visualizing, get this right brain open up, because we're a left brain society. You want to get more of your psychic, intuitive, visualizing right brain opened up so you can begin to visualize what you want to start to set in front of you on your path in the holographic field. So you're seeding what you want to give energy to. Use meditation and visualization. It's very effective, very powerful. Also raising your frequency. So we talked about, even the food you eat has frequency. Pay attention to the energy you put into you, both food, emotions, people around you. What you're putting into your body could drop your vibration very significantly. So you start cleaning away what's dropping your vibration, be it people, places, things, projects. You start getting very discerning because you're now in the process and you're not wanting to go backwards. So you're going to start, you're going to get discerning. You're going to start being very selective of what you allow in your reality because you're continuing to raise your energy frequency. The other thing you can do is meditate and keep bringing in this crystalline light. You want to start turning on your dormant DNA, your crystalline DNA. That's like a fourth meal. Pull in crystalline light as often as you can. You're feeding, your hypothalamus is starting to metabolize it. You're starting to feed your organs light. We're shifting away from living on dense food and emotions and starting to learn to live on light. This is really important. That's happening right now. Also, too, as I mentioned, heal the heart. You got to get that heart open and full of love and compassion and joy and gratitude. So this is really worth it. This is what's going to magnetize that to you in your reality and open doors to realities you've never thought you could enter into. So get some heart healing. If you need to get body work with the healer, do Reiki, whatever works for you. And then the other thing, too, is to acknowledge that, 3 dimensions of 11, that's a small percentage. There's a whole, 7, 8, 9 dimensions that are non-physical, but they're very real and they're around us. And once you begin to acknowledge it and start to tap into it, there's a lot of help there for us. A lot of benevolent, loving beings that are supporting us. So I have found a lot of support Because most light workers feel pretty alone here. We don't feel like we fit in. We feel like we're kind of on the fringe. Nobody really gets us. We don't get them, right? So you start pulling in your soul tribe, both physical and non-physical, to support you through this process. And I think too, it's understanding that we're not here to leave this planet. We're here to transform this planet. We call it the new earth. I'm a new earther. I'm no longer a new ager. I'm a new earther. We're here to build this planet. We're here to build this new community that is a conscious community. So I think it's kind of a cop-out that people just want to leave. Every time I hear that, it's like, come on, this is the most important time for us to be here. Like, do your work, right? Contribute, be in service to others, to the greater good. So these are things where we're pulling away from kind of that ego presence that just wants, and it's all about service to self, and we're moving more into becoming in what's called unity consciousness. We're living in this unity consciousness, service to the greater good. So these are some of the areas that I think everyone can do it, everyone can jump in and just get started working with it. I work with a lot of light workers. I've been doing quantum healing work for 20 years, and it's to help people understand what their blueprint is, what their purpose is, get them started, help them clear whatever blockages they've come into, get the trauma out so they can actually contribute just like all of us. We want to get everybody up and running, because the more light workers that are lit up and active and radiating light, this whole planetary consciousness shifts. So you can reach me at my website, newearthcentral.com, and I'm just thrilled to be here with all of you today, so thank you.
So we're going to wind this up with a brief activation that Meg's going to lead. But before that, I want to make sure you're all aware of the Portal to Ascension conference that's coming up October 5th and 6th. If you like this information, this conference is going to the next level. Not only Ascension, but all the ET. These are some of the most prominent thinkers, researchers are coming to this conference. And also you'll be with community that thinks like you do. That it's really wonderful to be together for 4 days. And it's in Irvine, California, so it's right down the road here. So Portal to Ascension, there's flyers here, and it's ascensionconference.com. Also, we've passed out Ascension tips that Meg and I have put together. So there's a card, ascensiontips.org. You can go online and download 20 Ascension tips. And so they're being passed around now. A lot of what we've talked about and more, so that will inform you more. So Meg, can you close with an Ascension activation?
Okay, so we've been talking all this real high consciousness information. Let's just kind of come into our center. So if it helps, you can put your hand on your heart and your belly. We're just going to come into our center. And we're sentient beings. We're powerful light beings. So also use your feet chakras like magnets. So we're going to lock onto the crystalline global grid of our fifth dimensional earth. It's time to make that your home base. I ground to that every single morning. So you're starting to use your conscious intention of where you want to connect to in this holographic field. We're connecting to our crystalline fifth dimensional grid under our feet. And we're going to open up a spiral. Everything is a spiral in this universe. There's going to be an anti-clockwise spiral. And as this spirals from your feet up, it's starting to unlock the time barriers. Time is clockwise. We're going to go opposite. We're unlocking the time barriers, unlocking density, unlocking gravity, starting to open your field up, and out to the quantum level where you're able to access the higher consciousness, the higher information, the higher knowledge, your higher self. Starting to open your channel. This is your chakra channel. It goes right up the center of your body. And let's open that. We're a transmitter receiver. We're able to radiate out love, radiate out light. We're able to receive down our channel dimensional light. Bring that crystalline God light down and into you, breathing that into your heart, because we want to heal these hearts. We want to up level your frequency in the heart space. Imagine that heart is just opening and expanding and filling more and more with love, with light, with compassion, with healing light. And as you breathe that in, you take that in and allow that to fill. And then you also can use your conscious free will to activate. Just start to get in and command and activate your ascension blueprint, your ascension life plan. You're grounding onto your ascension timeline. You're starting to get yourself in position, getting ready for what's coming. And there we go. Feet chakras just lock down onto your ascension timeline. Your channel is receiving down and in the crystalline diamond light. And your heart is opening, expanding, and pulsing with love. And we set this into motion now. And so it is. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Meg, and thank you, Billy.
Thank you.
Amazing. And thank you, everyone, for being here.